Hi, everyone. So I've been hearing from a lot of teachers and parents about how the struggle is real right now with this shift to alternative education environment. It's not like the whole country's been called off and we're all sitting at home just focused on school. I'm still teaching full-time virtually, as well as I have a fourth and a sixth grade student who are my children. So I understand. I've been a teacher for 13 years, and I've always sarcastically joked, oh, I don't know if I could ever teach my own children. We're too much alike. You know, we would butt heads all the time. Well, I'm teaching them now. So the frustration is real, and what you are feeling is justified. So what I'm hoping to provide in the next few videos that I'm going to put together are not only some helpful tips, but some science behind what works and what can actually make this a little bit more enjoyable for everyone involved. In the coming videos, I'm hoping to touch on homeschool environment, that balancing work and school with your students, deciding what is and is not your mountain to die on. And today I'm going to start discussing specifically the male learner. This is something I myself have done a lot of research on and gone to a lot of trainings on, primarily because I'm a mom of two boys, two very, very different boys who learn very differently. But also as a teacher, I noticed very quickly in my career that statistically in the classrooms, the male learners were the ones that had the most behavioral-based difficulties. And I wanted to start taking a closer look at that. And it's not always a behavioral thing as much as it is a brain thing. So that's what we're going to touch on today. All right, so discussing the male learner. The first thing I want to say in regards to the male learner, this isn't just specifically beneficial for males in general. It typically skews to more of our typical male learners and the information that I'm going to be covering, but it is still completely applicable to some, if not all, of our female learners as well. But if you've been a teacher or even a parent of either or, male, female, you're going to notice that they go about things differently. They intake information differently. So the information I'm going to share today is not only tried and true and studied on the education side of things, but as a mom. Now, I feel like I should caveat this. I know these things, but it doesn't mean I'm flawless at utilizing them, especially as a mom. Sometimes things are much easier to apply as a teacher than they are a parent, which we're all feeling probably right now at home with our kiddos. With our male learners and our male sons, we're going to see things like they like to be moving. They tip on their chairs. They get up and get drinks 45 times during class, or they sharpen their pencils, or they chew on their pencils. All of these physical attributes. Now, this isn't true of all male learners, just like I said, and it's not true for just male learners, not all the time. It's everybody has a different brain. So those more physical kids that you see, those are the ones that need that kinesthetic component to their education, which can sometimes be difficult to provide fully in a classroom. Last time I was in a brick and mortar classroom as a third grade teacher, I had 26 students. I had more males than females. But if I let every kid that wanted to get up and go whenever they felt the urge to get a drink or to sharpen their pencil or to walk the halls, I would be starting and stopping my lesson over and over and over again. So it wouldn't seem efficient. Especially because teachers, we feel that pressure. We only get so many minutes in the day to get things done. So why am I bringing this up now? Because we have a wonderful opportunity for our active learners. They're at home. They're in their environment. So some things to be aware of. Don't expect Johnny to to sit and watch the whole 30-minute video, depending on the age of your child. My background is in elementary, which I should be clear about. So I'm primarily talking your K-6 students. As they're getting older, they're probably more capable. But even those older students, some of these tips will apply to. So we've got a lot of video lessons that are coming out just like this. And you and I as adults, we've done virtual training probably for our jobs, and we know how well we probably listen attentively that whole time. I mean, let's be real. We get bored, we open other windows, we multitask. So our students are going to be tempted to do the same thing. So break it up. It's okay at home for them to stand up and walk around. It's not okay for them to stand up and walk around in the classroom. If you can, use your windows for a chalkboard or a whiteboard. Okay, you can use dry erase markers, you can use window markers. Get them up out of their seats when they're doing math, when they're doing spelling. I happen to have had a giant whiteboard in my house, so that's what we're using. So when my youngest son, who is not a fan of math, has to do math, I'm like, okay, you can go do it on the whiteboard. He's pacing, he's walking in circles, he's up and over the coffee table. My coffee table's walkable, it's okay. But he's moving. All things that would have gotten him probably in trouble if he had tried to do so at school, because so much of his energy is keeping him in the seat and keeping him focused. It's why he was always so tired when he got home from school, because it was a lot of work to sit and listen and be in control the whole time. Appropriate physicality is okay. As long as he's not throwing things or hitting his brother or whatever, I'm cool. Walk around. You're not disrupting 23 other kids in the classroom. Go for it. So window markers on windows. We love that for our word wall here at home. When he has a question when he's reading, I use the window for ELA primarily. So like if you have a question on a word, our word wall's there. If you have a thought from your book, things like that, write it on there, because I am actively teaching when he's starting his lessons. So, I'm not right there to answer his questions. So not only does it get him writing, but it allows him to get up and do something that feels against the rules, but it's not, because a little bit of Windex and some paper towels, and he cleans it on Fridays, which is an additional classroom job for him. And then math is on the whiteboard. Another thing is spelling, sight words, multiplication tables, anything you can do to make that physical. We've all played horse, right? The basketball game where you do a crazy shot, and if the other person doesn't get it, they get a letter until it spells out horse. The first person to spell horse is out, right? Adapt that to spelling. Adapt that to spelling words and sight words, so that there's that physicality, because the science behind it I'm going to now refer to it as an active learner, is if you have an active learner, very kinesthetic minded, very moves a lot, is that if you can put physical movement with the information you want them to remember, their retention is directly connected to movement. So for instance, here, my son's multiplication tables that he struggles with, 7s, 8s, and 9s primarily, a few 6s thrown in there. I have him taped to a wall. He uses his Nerf gun to fire at the problem, and then he has to tell me the factor. Now, if I was sitting on the couch and drilling this with him, he would fight me tooth and nail the whole time. But with the Nerf math, he likes it. He loves Nerf guns. It gives a physicality to it, and it's helping him retain his multiplication facts. I introduced this for my niece, who is kindergarten to first grade, and she's working on sight words, and she's got 2 older brothers. So the idea that she gets to use her older brother's Nerf gun is awesome. And mom, just on the side of their island, puts her 6 to 8 sight words that she's working on, and then she says it and shoots it, or shoots it and says it, whatever works best. Spelling words, you can do a physicality. Put some shaving cream on your counter. Have them write the spelling words in shaving cream, or sand. It adds that physical, tactile element to it that will help them retain it rather than just saying it or writing it on a whiteboard. tennis balls, throwing back and forth. You could do addition facts, subtraction facts, multiplication facts, back and forth playing catch in the front yard. It's going to write it directly to that retention part of the brain much quicker if you have an active learner. And it gets you outside, and it's not you and your student at each other saying, we have to get through this. You need to sit still and just do this, okay? It takes the argument out of it. Even when you're giving directions in the classroom or at home, rather than just being auditory, if you can give a physicality to it, if it's just like swinging their hands back and forth, playing patty cake, I know that seems really weird, but if you can give that physicality to it, they'll remember that multiple step direction. If you can toss a ball to them while they're doing it, if you just add some physicality to it, it is absorbed better. Less necessary for my older son than my younger son, because my younger son is much more physical and has a shorter attention span. So when I can give the physicality with the direction, he does a lot better. My older son, he's 13, so he's a little bit better at just auditory multiple step directions. But again, they're two very different styles of learners. So that's kind of my intro into the male learner. It's very, very fascinating. But if at home, if you've got male learners or active learners who seem to have short attention spans or like to be moving, if you can add physicality to that, it will help. It will help your mental state in not having to argue with them as much. It will also help them retain the information. Jump roping, hula hooping, jumping jacks, trampoline, going on the swing, anything of that nature, anything that you can get them to do that's physical, along with the academic information that they're being asked to know and or retain, it will help. It will help, and it will help write it to that long-term retention quicker. Perfect example is right now my son, for his math class, is comparing fractions, greater than, less than, equal to. So when we get outside in the afternoon, we're going to play ladder ball. And when we're playing ladder ball, I'll ask him a fraction comparison before he can throw his ladder ball. I'll say, all right, what's greater, half or 3/4? 3/4. Okay, throw your ball. And it doesn't necessarily feel like he's being forced to do his math either. And we'll do it for everybody so that he doesn't feel singled out. So I'll give harder fractions to my 6th grade son because, he thinks he likes to have the harder questions. So the hard part of all of that is, for me, is knowing the answer before I ask it. But anyway, that's my big tip for this week. If you have active learners or male learners, get active with it. Let them be physical. They no longer are in a brick and mortar classroom where they have to be as controlled. So allow them to be more physical throughout the day. Get up and move. Have their environment where they feel comfortable. I have a friend who has boys that I love seeing their education environment each day on social media. Sometimes he's sitting in the storage ottoman. Sometimes he's outside. Let them be creative and allow that to relieve some of the stress for you. I hope you're finding these helpful. Have a wonderful week. Like, share, and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.